We all know it's hard to find a good story that you like, but with Usogui, you may have just found what you're looking for. Usogui is an action, mystery, psychological seinen manga written and illustrated by Toshio Sako, which was serialized in 2006 and ended in 2017. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I am not currently, I'm gonna reinforce that, currently enjoying reading this manga. But there are some parts that stand out to me, and here's why. Themes of chance, gambling, and luck have never really been interesting to me, as all these elements are written directly into the story, meaning that when Toshio Sako wants someone to win, they'll just win. And I'll admit it, he is pretty decent at setting up the reasons characters win, but it's really all just the same to me. You can chalk this up to me just not understanding, as I'm only 69 chapters into a 539 chapter series. And you may be right, as Usogui was initially too complex for me to understand at the time. It wasn't really a manga that I could simply just read idly. While reading, I had to push myself to truly understand everything, but the effort to do so is rewarded. My first great point is that the suspension of disbelief isn't needed to enjoy this manga, as everything that does happen within it is explained. The stakes, the ante, the consequences of losing a game, and even the types of mistakes a gambler may make that seals their fate. None of these things are left out, and despite not liking the gambling elements, I can still say that I recommend this manga because I can definitely see how this is enjoyable. I want to start out by giving you a little information so things make sense. Usogui is about a man named Madarame Baku, otherwise known as Usogui, and Kaji Takaomi, as they dive deep into illegal and underground gambling between Kakuro members and Yakuza members. Kakuro is essentially the story's main plot device, as it's an organization that handles powerful gambles between the Japanese underground. There are seemingly many Japanese politicians within Kakuro, and it's a game between Usogui and a Kakuro member that sets this story off. This game takes place in an abandoned building owned by Taro Kokone, with the ante being 10 million yen if both Usogui and Kaji can make it out alive, but Kokone and his comrades will do anything to stop them. Now, I did like this part, as this isn't really a chance-based game, and throughout this arc, you can see the dynamic between two experienced gamblers and one inexperienced, and this life or death circumstance only intensifies this dynamic. Kokonoe is a murderer and pleasures himself on the screams of his victim murdered within this game, and the building this game takes place in is filled with wire traps, caltrops, 3 armed men, and an absolutely insane maniac. This maniac's name is Rodemu, and he was found as a child in a war zone and experimented on, and he became this murderous lapdog for Kokonoe. I'll be talking more about this guy later, but due to the calculated and intelligent nature of Usogui and Kaiji's ability to trust him, every one of these traps is not only thwarted, but turned against Kokonoe, allowing both Kaiji and Usogui to walk freely and 10 million yen richer. But these next two parts are actually my favorite, as they are more so about the development of two characters, one being Kaji and the other being Marco. During the Poker Shark arc, Kaji enters his own Kakuro game against a Yakuza member after losing all 10 million in 7-card poker, which was a game he chose since he didn't want luck to be involved in the game. And throughout this game, Kaji goes through a roller coaster of emotions. We even see his past, in which he describes the first time he owned money being a single 100 yen coin, stating that it was an enormous amount to him, and that as if it were natural, he became a person who hid banknotes in his pocket, and that the amount of money Kaji has seen lately took control of him, so he kept betting over and over again until he eventually ran out, which is exactly what Usogui had warned him about, which was his rationale going out the window. In this moment, he reflected on how he doesn't have the brains or skills to earn a lot. He learned for someone like him who doesn't know the volume of money, losing lots of it was nothing unusual. He wasn't just struggling for victory, he was only copying Usogui. His opponent Samimaro even says that people like Kaji are the reason scams and extortion exist. Samimaro even thinks that he overestimated Kaji, but then he realizes that he's just a plain idiot. But it's interesting because at this part, he seemingly understands something, and he begins to take an apricot from the bag and invites Samimaro to one final game where his newly instilled resolve allows him to win. This victory is also tied to Marco's role in this arc, as Kaji was explicitly told to bring Marco with him for his rehabilitation. The consequence for losing to Kaji meant that Samimaro had to die, but Kaji didn't want Samimaro to die simply because he lost the game. So he placed a bet with the Kakuro referee that if Marco beats their debt collector, Samimaro could walk free. Now, without spoiling too many things, Marco is or was originally this insanely strong murderer with a split personality named Rodemu, who was owned by Kokonoe, which I mentioned already, and this murderous side was used to kill many of Kokonoe's victims. Marco was originally a child Kokonoe found in a war zone, and he adopted him and experimented on him, resulting in Rodemu being created. Marco is the more human side, and during the third arc of Usogui, Marco almost dies fighting again, and while in a death trance, he comes face to face with Kokonoe, who says that he shouldn't just become a sword for someone else, as it would hurt him, but that if he wishes to, he should go through this door. And after reading this back, it seems like this dead version of Kokonoe is trying to justify his sins and also prevent Marco from joining Usogui, and even condemn Marco to the same sins he committed. But even this door is a trap to ensnare Marco once again, but the influence of Usogui and Kaiji steer him to the correct door, freeing him completely of Kokonoe's manipulation. And it's these few moments in the manga so far that I really do like, as they are extremely satisfying and cool character growth moments. One pattern that also relates to how the gamblers interact in this story is how in their final moments, any calm disposition they had seemingly fades away, or rather those who don't seemingly fear losing immediately become human when they begin to lose. Even Usogui seems to do this when something goes wrong during a game, but at this particular point in the story, I can't tell whether it's a front or him actually panicking, which is very entertaining. To clarify, Usogui is a good story, and I can definitely see why it would be some other person's favorite story, but it really just isn't my cup of tea, and for that I want to apologize, because it actually made making this video quite difficult. Honestly, it felt like a chore to make this video, which really sucked. But I won't complain too much. I am going to keep reading it. I want to make it clear that I'm not giving up on the story. And if I do start enjoying it, I'll definitely make a second video that's way better. Like visually, audibly, and like that, you know, however I analyze will be a lot better. Anyways, if you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I want to thank you guys once again for getting me to 100, or not a man, I wish it was 100,000, but 1,000 subscribers. So thank you.
Fear God, love Jesus.
Peace.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.